Check.
Time. What are those sunglasses? What are those glasses?
All right, y'all, let's bring it back center in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you all. Welcome to your first assembly of the year. Y'all doing all right? You all didn't even give me a round of applause when I stepped up here, so give me a round of applause real quick. Y'all are the best. All right. So we have an amazing speaker today. He's going to speak for a little while, kind of walk you through some different pieces of some information. We have the rest of our wonderful LS community online right now, watching in their classrooms. So it's pretty cool. We have some here, we have some there. But here's what I'm going to ask of y'all. As we're going through this, it's super helpful that we're not talking, kind of having those backstory conversations, because we need the mic to pick up everything that our classes need to hear. Okay, we all good with that? We can agree to it? Can you all give me a thumbs up, please? Come on, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Oh, we got some people with thumbs up, but I caught you. It's all right. We'll talk later. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our amazing guest, David Flood. So let's give him a round of applause right now before I do my intro. All right, here we go. So, David Flood He's the married father of 2 children. He is a board member of Kids Plus, a nonprofit which helps special needs children. He is a member of the Drug and Alcohol Task Force in his hometown of Northport, New York, on Long Island. So he's a long way from home right now. David has been a lector in his church parish for over 30 years. He is also a hospice volunteer that visits with terminally ill patients. He has spoken in 38 states and Canada to more than 400,000 students. His social media videos have received over 125 million views. He's getting close to mine. David is addicted to Sour Patch Kids, Sour Skittles, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and anything else with sugar or caffeine. Ellis Middle School. Give a huge warm welcome to David Flood. Let's hear y'all.
Kumusta na ho kayo sa inyong lahat? Taga saan? Ang asawa ko ay nakatira sa Parañaque. Oh, I'm so sorry. You guys want me to do the talk in English? Okay. I'll do the talk. I'll do the talk in English if someone can tell me what language that is. Who said Spanish? That's incorrect. Who said Chinese? That's wrong too. German? No. Ma'am, do you know? Ma'am, wait. I think she may know. It is Tagalog, and where do they speak Tagalog? That's right. So the islands are the Philippines. The people are Filipino. The language is not Filipino, and they speak Tagalog. I can tell under that mask you might be Filipino. Yes, right? So what I just said to you guys was, I said, "Como están na ho kayo sa inyong lahat?" That's a very formal welcome in Tagalog. And then if I met another Filipino, I would say to them, "Taga saan?" And that means, "Where are you from?" And then I would respond to that, "Ang asawa ko ay nakatira sa Parañaque." That means my wife is from a city in the Philippines called Parañaque. My wife is Filipino. And the reason I start all of my talks that way is because I love my Filipino family. I really love my Filipino family. And I think they love me. Not sure. But here's the thing, guys. My children don't look like me. I don't know if that's good or bad. How many think that's good? How many think that's bad? How many of you don't care? Yeah, we don't care, Mr. Flood. Why are you telling us? Well, my children don't. My children, especially my daughter, look like their mom. My whole family has thick, black, beautiful hair and the most beautiful brown almond eyes. And when we go to the beach in the summertime, my whole family gets tan, and I get sunburned and skin cancer. That's not funny. Are you laughing at my pasty white skin? My inability to be in the sun? And hey, I'm not making fun of skin cancer because I've had it and I go to the dermatologist a lot. But when my daughter was a baby, I was in a bank one time, and Sarah's a baby, so she's up on the counter in the bank doing what a baby does, nothing. She's in the car carrier thing, right? She's on the counter in the bank, and I'm making my transaction, and a woman behind me in the bank looks at me, and then she looks over at my daughter, and she looks back, and she goes, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful. Where'd you get her?" So I looked at her and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, Walmart?" People say things, not people, we all say things without thinking. I'll never forget when I was growing up, when I was your age, my mom had all these signs in our kitchen, these little sayings. And one of them, I don't know what 9 of them said, but one of them said, "Be sure brain is in gear before engaging mouth." So make sure your brain is operational and working before you open your mouth and say something stupid. So Sarah is 20 now. I say she's 20 going on 35. She's kind of a little mature for her age. She's a little Have you guys all seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Okay, yeah. Who were the 2 bratty girls in Willy Wonka? Violet, and who's the other one? Veruca. So, okay, guys, imagine if Veruca and Violet raised a child together. Yeah, she's like, "Oh my God, Mr. Flood, no." Yeah, because that would be Sarah. This is Sarah. Daddy, buy me. Daddy, I want a golden ticket. Daddy, I want a pony. Daddy, I want Tory Burch. I want Ugg boots. I want Patagonia. I want an iPhone 21. I want. Yeah. I'm like 21. There's no iPhone. Well, pre-order it for me now. Dig up Steve Jobs and tell him to make me one. You know, I want an iPhone. We do a lot of pre-ordering in our house. She's a piece of work. I love her when she's not making fun of me, which isn't that often, no. And guys, I still get nervous before I speak in schools. Obviously, speaking in front of kids is kind of be daunting for some people. And in 2019, pre-pandemic, I was in 102 schools in 30 states. So you can imagine. Now, I've been in Austin before, but I was still a little nervous walking in here today, like all you guys were standing outside hanging out. And walking in, to a middle school can be a little bit intimidating for me, whatever. So, but I get nervous, so I sit in the parking lot some mornings, and what I'll do is I'll pray or meditate, drink my tea, coffee, whatever, and I'll listen to soft music. Now I know Sarah's getting dressed and getting ready for school, so I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll text Sarah, because I know she'll give me some support, send me some love. So I'll text her, and I'll be like, hey Sarah, it's Daddy, I love you, I miss you. I'm nervous today, I'm walking into a school and I just feel extra nervous. Can you text me back something like, Daddy, I love you, you're gonna be great, the kids are gonna love you, the hands folded emoji, a heart, anything. She texts me the same thing every time. You're chubby and you have man boobs. Gee, thanks, Sarah, so do you, have a good day. I didn't text her that. Actually, one time I did. It's a pain in the neck. Don't text that to your dads. Don't text that to anybody. She's like I said, she's an awesome kid when she's not making fun of me. And my son is awesome too. Justin's 22 now, he'll be 23 in a couple weeks. Justin likes anime, he's a big anime kid. Yeah. So, as far as I'm concerned, anime fans, there's only two types of people on the entire planet. There's people who understand anime, and then there's everybody else. That's it. We go to everything. We go to Anime Con, Fan Fest. We're going to Anime Fest at the Javits Center in New York City on the 19th of November, that weekend. But now his new thing, ready for this? His new thing is he likes all the weird, scary movies like Annabelle and It and The Conjuring and The Omen and The Exorcist. Do you guys know the Annabelle movies? Okay, check this out. In 2 weeks, we're going to a para-con. That's a paranormal con in Waterbury, Connecticut, at a hotel. The Annabelle doll is going to be there. Yes, because the Warrens had a museum at their house in Connecticut, and the Annabelle, I know I'm not going to touch it. I'm not even going in the same room as the thing. But he likes all those weird, scary movies, and he likes wrestling. He's a big WWE fan. How many eighth grade? Where are the eighth graders? Eighth graders? Eighth grade? Just no? Oh, all seven? Somebody over there told me they were in eighth grade before. Oh, all right, a couple eighth graders. Well, anyway, I love telling this story about Justin. In eighth grade, I assume you guys do this. In eighth grade, before you go to high school, you meet with your counselor to talk about what high school is going to be like. So at the end of the year, Justin has a meeting with his counselor in middle school, in May or June, whenever it was. And he says to his counselor, and I quote, he said, Mrs. Pelicano, when I get to high school, do I get a girlfriend? he thought you got assigned a girlfriend in high school. Like you're going to have a part, that'd be weird, right? I had a kid, yeah. No, that'd be great, like assigned relationships. He's funny. And the other thing you guys need to know about Justin is that, my wife is an important part of our family, and my daughter is an important part of our family, and I am an important part of our family. But for me, just for me, Justin is a little bit more important than the three of us. And the reason for that is that Justin has autism. And he's off. He's awesome. He's an awesome kid with autism. He's kind, he's caring, he's compassionate, he's funny, but he doesn't understand how to interact in social situations. Like he can't look somebody in the eye. He doesn't know how to sit down at a table with a group of people and have a conversation because all he wants to do is talk about himself. He doesn't have friends. He spends most of his time alone when he's not with me, which is every minute when I'm not traveling. I was with a dad a couple years ago who's got a son who's younger than Justin, who's got special needs, and we were having a conversation. And there was kind of a moment of silence in our talk. And I looked up at him and I said, you know, if somebody came to me today and they offered me $100 million, they said, Dave, you can have all of this money, or you can have one genuine, kind, true, lifelong friend for your son, I would choose that friend every day of the week, 365 days a year, over all the money in the world. One day, a couple years ago, Justin called me from school 32 times in one day. 32 times in 8 hours. And that's not because Justin didn't have anybody to talk to. There were lots of people for him to talk to. It's that no one would talk to him. And when he first got to high school, he was struggling a lot. I would say the first like 6 weeks of high school when he was a freshman, he got in trouble 4 or 5 times, got sent home from school a couple times for doing something stupid without thinking. But there's got to be consequences for any kid, a typical kid or a special needs kid. And he came home from school one day after getting in trouble, and my wife pulled him aside because she was a little bit closer with him back then than I was. And she said, Justin, what's going on, buddy? How can Daddy and I be more supportive of you? How can we help you acclimate to high school better? What can we do to help you in school? And he looked at her and he said, Mommy, I'm lonely. And that was the way his loneliness was manifesting itself and acting out. And when my wife shared that with me, guys, I couldn't process that then or now, because Justin went to school with 2,000 kids. There were 2,000 kids in his high school. And another 100 adults walking around the building at any one time. So all I can think in my rational mind is, how can anybody be lonely in a building where there's over 2,000 people walking around? How do we let that happen? And I didn't fly 2/3 of the way across the country to spend 2 days in Austin, and I'm going to be in Hammond, Wisconsin. I didn't fly away across the country for 4 days to be away from my family for sympathy. I don't want you guys to feel sorry for me. I don't even want you to feel sorry for Justin. You guys will probably never meet Justin. Who knows? Maybe I bring him back someday. But if me talking about those things helps you to, one, connect with the place in yourself where you felt lonely, because we all have. Everybody walking in the building has felt lonely, adults included. No matter how high up on the food chain you think you are, academically, athletically, socially, artistically, musically, we all felt lonely. And if I connect with you there, and you say, yeah, Mr. Flood, I know how that feels. You know, I didn't have a lot of friends in elementary school, or now I spend a lot of my time alone, and I feel that loneliness. That's a good job by me. I will have done a pretty good job. Great job by me would be as if me talking about those things helps you to realize, recognize, and acknowledge loneliness in another person. And not just a special needs kid, but anybody, maybe somebody who's new in the school, who doesn't speak the language, who just moved to Austin, right? Somebody who's, I always tell kids, I want to be very clear about this. Being shy and introverted is not bad. It is when you build the wall around yourself. So people who are just, and I always tell kids who are shy and introverted, listen, you might have to take a little bit of a step towards friends. But those people who are just maybe just a little bit more outgoing, right? And interactive, can you be someone who reaches over to, out to, down to, back to someone, or go where they are? My talk's not about autism, guys, it's about inclusion. That means everybody, equity, equal for everybody. How can we be more inclusive? Not just in the schools, but out in the community too. And I give 2 different talks. So I give this talk that I'm giving to you guys this morning on dignity, respect, and compassion. And I also do a talk on drug and alcohol awareness and suicide prevention in middle schools and high schools. And I was watching, so I try and watch and take in as much information as I can about all those topics. And several years ago, I was giving a talk down in Virginia, and I was in a hotel. I was there for a couple nights, and one night I was in my hotel, and I'm watching this program, and it's on drug addiction. It's on the opioid epidemic in the country and how bad it is and still is now. But I'm watching this program, and most of the things that I was hearing in this program, I had heard before. And before I go any further, you guys need to know, not really part of my talk, but I've been in recovery for 31 years. So I haven't used drugs and alcohol in 31 years. So I've done a little bit of work on myself in that amount of time, right? So I'm watching this program on addiction, and I'm hearing things that I knew. And after like 15 or 20 minutes, I'm like, nah, I know most of this. It sounds like stuff I've heard before. It sounds familiar. I'm going to go to sleep. I'll just leave the TV on, put the timer on, and I'll roll over and go to sleep. So I'm like half asleep. And with maybe 5-10 minutes to go in this program on addiction, I heard 3 words that woke me up I couldn't go back to bed that night. I've been obsessed with that topic ever since then, and I've used those 3 words in every talk that I've given since then, no matter what I'm talking about, no matter who I'm talking to, adults or kids. And these were the 3 words, Eric. Loneliness is toxic. Loneliness is toxic. And I sat up on my bed thinking, holy cow, I've never heard that before. I've never read that before. No one's ever said that to me before. Now I'm sitting there and I have a flashback to Justin telling my wife that he's lonely. And I'm thinking, I got to find out about this. So I started reading, and I found out that as early as 5th grade, kids can build a wall around themselves that's so high and so thick that no one can get in. And they're starting to find out that loneliness, they started with veterans coming home from war, and now they've started to study lower down, younger people. And they've started to find out that social isolation is actually contagious, like a virus. One person socially isolates, and it causes other people to do the same thing. And this is the only thing I'll say about this. This is one of the reasons that we socially isolate. Not my phone, your phone. This is one of the reasons. This thing, and this is a great communication device. It's an amazing communication device. Full of information, like an encyclopedia in my pocket. It's a computer. It also causes isolation, and you don't even know it's doing it to you. So loneliness is toxic, and I found out when I started to read more about it, can you be a person, Eric, can we have the next slide, that reaches over to, out to, down to someone? Again, being sad, being shy, right? Being shy or introverted is not bad. It is when you build a wall around yourself, because when you build a wall around yourself, be careful what you're walling out and what you're walling in, because the walls we build around us keep out the sadness, but they also keep out a lot of the joy. So can you be someone who reaches over to, out to, down to, back to others, or go where they are? That's empathy. So what I want to do with you guys in the next 30 minutes or so that we have together is give you 3 simple challenges to work on. 3 simple things that I know will make a huge difference in your day, but more importantly, the day of people around you. You guys okay with that? Yeah. I said, are you guys okay with that? Yeah. All right, so here's the first challenge. What I want you to do is turn to someone sitting next to you, near you. I want you to look deeply into their eyes. Not too deeply. You're not getting married. You're not going home with them. Or maybe you're your sibling. And I want you to say this. When I look at you, I see blank, and fill in the blank. 30 seconds, go. When I look at you, I see blank. Take turns going back and forth. Be creative. $20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, finish up. Let me see a couple of hands. Someone raise their hand and tell me what they said to the person sitting next to them. Right here, yes. Shh. What did you say? When I see, yes, excellent. And what did you say back?
I called them patient because when I'm in need, they know.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, in the back, ma'am. Yes. Everybody say, "Aw." And what did they say back? What did they say back? They just said, "Same." Someone over here had their hand up. Anyone want to share over here? Can I get a volunteer? I need a volunteer. Yes, right there. Come up here. Come and join me. Give them a round of applause, guys. Thank you, sir. What is your name? Isaiah. You guys know Isaiah? Yeah. So Isaiah and I are going to do this exercise now. Isaiah's going to look at me. Isaiah, can you do that? Yes? Okay. So, but I want to tell Isaiah what not to say first. So I'm in a middle school in New Jersey a few years ago, and I bring up this 7th grade boy, and he comes walking up, and he looks at me, he goes, "Yeah, Mr. Floyd, when I look at you, you look like you're from the 60s. And then another kid in the back yells out, "Nah, man, he looks like Doc Brown from Back to the Future." And then I'm in a high school last year, and I bring up this freshman girl, and she comes strolling up, and she looks at me, she goes, "Mr. Floyd, when I look at you, you look like Squidward." Squid. And then the worst was, Isaiah, I'm a little weird. I have like I might come to lunch later on with you guys. I like having lunch with middle school kids, whatever. So I'm in a middle school a few years ago, and I'm having lunch with a group of 7th grade girls. Not a good idea. And we're laughing and joking, and they're asking me about my family and talking about my assembly. And all at one time, they put their food down and they looked at me and they go, "Mr. Flood, we voted, and we think you look like Rick from Rick and Morty." That is the last time I'm having lunch with 7th grade girls. Till today, maybe. Isaiah, did you hear all those things not to say? Okay. You're going to say, "Mr. Flood." No, Mr. Flood. Mr. Flood. When I look at you, I see Rick and Morty. Didn't I just tell you not to say that, Isaiah? Isaiah, do you like this shirt? Would you like a shirt? No, my shirt. Do you like this shirt? Would you like a shirt similar to this shirt? Like a medium, Isaiah? Is that going to be good for you? Give Isaiah a round of applause. Now who wants to volunteer? Yeah. Well, my shirts are on my website. Hey, DavidJFlood.com. When I asked for volunteer, his was the first hand to go up. So never be afraid to volunteer. That was redundant. If you guys don't know, I was asking to show you what you get if you volunteer. Anyway, Isaiah and I do not look alike. So in order to see myself in him, where am I looking? Deeper than that. Who said soul? Yo, that's deep. That's like some Superman type. I heard it over here. I'm looking at Isaiah's heart. His heart. Say the word. Thank you. His heart. Thank you. Finish the word. And where is Isaiah's heart? It's on the in. It's on the in. Your first challenge for today, Eric, if we get on the next slide, is stop looking at people on the outside and look on the inside. Stop looking at... Stop looking at what someone's wearing or not, or what color their skin is or not, or if they look like Rick and Morty, Rick from Rick and Morty, or Squidward or not. Or someone has a disability that you can see or not. And I know that's difficult to do. I know it's hard to look at someone who doesn't look like you, walk like you, talk like you, act like you. Maybe somebody's acting like an idiot, and you look at them. When I see people acting stupidly, in most cases, I look at them and I say, not all the time, but I look at them and say, I've done stupid stuff too. And I just try, but when and kids always, lately a lot, when I've been speaking in schools, kids ask me, "Mr. Flood, how do you do it?" And I said, just pause. I just pause before I go to that place of judgment. I don't, and I know there's a difference, guys, you should know this in 7th grade, the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is I feel sorry for you. Empathy is I know how you feel. And then you want to act on that empathy, you do something about it. Like you see somebody walking down the hallway. You guys have lockers? Okay, so you're walking down the hallway, and maybe I was in a school last week, and a kid couldn't open his locker. Like, you're walking down the hallway, maybe somebody can't open the locker, or they're having a crappy day. You could just tell when someone's having a bad day, or they're late to class, and, you see someone who needs help. They drop something. They're just having a bad day. But what do we do? No, right, quick, not my problem. I got to get to class. I'm late. I don't want to get involved. You stop. You go to that empathy place. What you do is you look at them and you say, that could be me. My favorite author is a guy named Neil Donald Walsh. And he says this: stop looking at things with your mind and look with your heart. Because your mind always wants to protect you. Always. But your heart wants to connect you. Mind wants to protect you. Your heart wants to connect you. Stop looking with your mind. Look with your heart first. That's empathy. What's your first challenge? Look on the. What's your first challenge? Look on the. So when Sarah was in 7th grade, I hope you guys will appreciate this story. She had a group of 5 friends, or 5 girlfriends, besties, BFFs, crew, squad, posse, I don't know what you call it in Austin. So we don't call it gang. No. But anyway, these girls have been friends since they were like 2, 3, 4 years old. Girl Scouts, kick line, cheerleading, dance. I mean, they were inseparable. They did soccer, lacrosse, all kinds of, right? This was her crew. Until one day in the middle of 7th grade, those 5 girls came to her in a circle, in a group, and they said to her, Sarah, we don't want to be friends with you anymore. You're out. Abandoned her. And to this day, she has no idea what she did to deserve that. Nothing, just one girl deciding to exclude her from the group. And Sarah's resilient. She's got a new group of friends now. But she knew to do what I taught her in school that day, not to wait to come home to talk to us about it. She talked to a teacher and a counselor in school, because Sarah knows what you don't talk out, you act out. What does that mean, Mr. Floyd? It means what you don't talk. It means exactly that. When you don't talk out, if you don't talk something out, it's going to come out somewhere. Problems, guys, are like Jell-O. When you press down on Jell-O, it shoots out the sides. So are your problems. Especially in the last 20 months with all the social isolation that we've gone through. There's so much anger coming out. We see it now, like in the community, on airplanes, at sporting events, anywhere. It's that anger that built up anger of lack of control. But Sarah's incident was small, but she learned, and like I said, she's got a new group of friends now, and I tell you the story about her for 2 reasons. And she actually learned a massive lesson from it, because she was going to the University of Delaware. That's where she went for her freshman year. And she had a really hard time her first semester of freshman year. Lonely, and she's only a few hours from home, but she was lonely and having trouble making friends. She was still even shell-shocked by something that happened to her in 7th grade. She built a wall around herself, even though she talked it out with someone. And she decided, when she went back, the second semester, in January, she said, Daddy, I'm going to rush a sorority. I'm going to join a sorority, hopefully make some friends. And she does, very popular, big sorority. She's on the dance team at the school, very involved. And she joins the sorority, and she goes through all of this stuff. And after like a month of going through all of this stuff to join the sorority, she calls me up, and she said, you know what, Dad, I don't think that I want to do this, because all the freshman girls that I'm joining with are just really immature. All they want to do is drink and party during the day and go out, and all they do is gossip and talk about other people. She said, I like the seniors. I like the upperclassmen, the juniors and seniors, but I don't like this group of freshman girls. It almost reminds me of that group that abandoned me in 7th grade. So she learned a lesson of something that happened in middle school. And there's 2 reasons I tell you that story about her. Number 1 is this. We all act differently in groups. We just do. It's natural. It's normal. Is it good, Mr. Flood? Sometimes. A group can absolutely build up your self-esteem. Is it bad, Mr. Flood? Sometimes. A group can absolutely pull you down. Much more quickly, I think, than they can build up your self-esteem. I will tell you this. Not once in middle school or high school did I get in trouble alone. The hundreds of times that I got in trouble from school, it was because I was doing something to get attention in front of, with, or for my friends. And the most extreme example of group mentality would be, a mob that's rioting, burning, looting. Or a lot of stuff we saw, but we've seen it for hundreds of years, right? It didn't start last year. It didn't start 2 years ago. It didn't start 50 years ago. Right? There's always been mobs. And I know that there are people there might be, someone who's defending themselves from being in a riot or a mob or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what date you put on it. It doesn't matter. They would get an attorney would say, well, he or she was influenced by the mob mentality. Yeah? I don't know. I would argue with it. You're responsible for your own individual actions, no matter what's swirling around you on the outside. That would be my argument. If you guys forget everything I say to you today, and I hope you don't, I hope you remember a lot of what I say, but if you forget everything I say, everything, please do this one thing. One thing. When you go home tonight before you go to bed, go in the bathroom, close the door, turn the light on. I want you to look yourself in the mirror, and I want you to ask yourself this question. And the answer to the question is not from me or your mom or dad or your brothers and sisters or your friends or your relatives or your teachers. It's for you to do a little introspection. Eric, can we have the next slide? I want you to look at yourself and say in the mirror, am I the same person one-on-one that I am when I get around my friends? Or do I change? Do I influence them? Do they influence me? Are we a healthy group together? Who am I? You can go to the next slide, Eric. Thank you. Who am I? And if you want some objectivity, ask it. Then you can ask a teacher or someone outside of your house, do I act weird when I'm around my friends? So many principals, administrators, and counselors have come to me and said, Dave, what a lovely young lady she is until she gets around her friends. Or what a nice young man he is. He's great. I love this kid. But around his friends, he's just, gets in trouble a lot. And that's the second reason I tell you that story about Sarah is because, and I've really driven this point home a lot in the last 20 months in the virtual talks that I've been giving and the live talks. It's so awesome to be back, on stage in front of kids live. The only people who were thrown into more of a hurricane, tornado, turmoil, tsunami, whatever you want to call it, in the last 20 months, other than healthcare workers, are people who work in schools. And specifically teachers, but really anybody who works in a school. Because to teach virtually and this and that, right, we got to do that. It's become, now this, for the last 20 years, the job, it's unbelievable how the shift. Because in schools, the first job, like 50 years ago, was, oh, cool, we got to have kids in, we're going to educate them. But starting about 20 years ago, maybe even earlier than 1999, earlier than Columbine, we got to keep the kids safe first. Then we can educate them. That's very hard to balance. And now we have to keep them safe from a pandemic. So they have this job of keeping you safe, and then they have to educate you, and then they have to blend those two things together. And you guys just come in and, tra-la-la and stroll around and just forget about and take all that for granted. Don't take this for granted, please. You guys can have a huge impact on the adults in this building, because when it comes right down to it, they may not admit it, but they probably should. I will. We're just big versions of you guys. That's all we are. Big versions of you guys. And you have no idea the impact you can have on adults in the building. Your second challenge for today, Eric, is if we can have the next slide, is to find 2 adults in this building. I don't care who it is. It could be a lunch lady. It could be a custodian. It could be the SRO, one of the policemen. It could be a secretary in the office. It could be a counselor. It could be a teacher. It could be an administrator. I don't care who it is. You go to 2 adults in the building, and you're going to go up to them and say, you know what, Mr. Devine? I just want to say thank you to you for keeping me safe and for keeping all the kids safe here at Ellis. You know, Mrs. Cabine, and not just those 2 people, because those are the names I'm mentioning, and you look them in the eye when you say that. What's your first challenge? Look on me. What's your first challenge? Look on me. Second challenge is to thank 2. Where are you going to look when you say thank you? Do you guys trust me? No. What do you mean no? Do you guys trust me? Promise? Say we promise we won't think you're weird, Mr. Flood. Okay, don't worry, because if you guys think I'm weird, I don't care, because I know I'm weird. So you guys thinking that is not going to change the way I think of myself. Did you guys know that if you look somebody in the eye for 9 seconds or longer, you can't help but fall in love with them? Not that kind of love, you weirdos. I told you, you're not getting married or going home. It's human love. It's I see you. And if you don't want to fall in love with them, you stop at 8.9 seconds. I told you not to get freaked out. What's your first challenge? Look on me. Second challenge, thank 2. Where are you going to look when you say thank you? For how long? Who said 8.9? Detention. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All the teachers are going to be emailing Mrs. Cabine and Mr. Devine later on. Why are the kids staring at us today? I have 20 sets of eyes on me. They're burning holes in me. I can't be in the front of the classroom. I can't even look at my kids. Look somebody in the eye. Now, hey, I know eye contact can be intense. I told you guys earlier that Justin, right, has a hard time looking somebody in the eye. But just acknowledge someone. So when Justin was born, he developed typically for the first 12 or 14 months, but when he got to be 14 months old, he stopped speaking. He stopped making any kinds of baby noises, any kind of short words that he was saying, and he didn't speak again until he was 5. And now he won't shut up, which is so ironic. Be careful what you pray for. Like, he's probably called me 4 or 5 times in the time I've been speaking to you guys. Like, Justin, dude, take a breath. Just slow. It's okay. It's okay. He's awesome. But when he was 18 months old, my sister's a speech and language pathologist, and she said, you know, David, Justin's delayed. You got to take him to a developmental pediatrician. We did, and he came out as having autism spectrum disorder. And I'll never forget walking out of the doctor's office that day, all these thoughts racing through my mind that were selfish thoughts. Because I wasn't thinking about my wife. I wasn't thinking about Justin. I was thinking about me, how it's going to affect me. I thought I'd have a son who play baseball, football, lacrosse, that he'd be just like me. But I had to learn he wasn't going to be just like me. He was going to be just like all of you guys. Unique, quirky, important, special, different. One kid, one of a kind. And the other saying we have in the autism community, guys, is if you've met one person with autism, guess what? You've met one person with autism. No two are alike. On the outside, on the inside, we're all alike. And when he was 2.5, we put him on a bus to go to a special school that was an hour from our house. He was 2.5 years old with no other kids. There was a driver, an aide, and Justin. And he did well there. We brought him back into our district. And we got him involved in, I wanted to get him around as many coaches and mentors and teachers and aides. He did soccer and yoga, taekwondo, unified basketball, OT, PT, anything that could boost, lift, or support him. He played unified basketball. He played ice hockey for a while and got to score a goal. Some kids let him score a goal. I don't have time to tell that story now, but there's a great story on Facebook about Justin scoring a goal in hockey, which was unbelievable. Some boys let him score a goal, and that video's gotten like over 60 million views. But the biggest thing for me, and the reason that the impetus for me, the reason I go out and speak to schools, because Justin used to come home from school every single day, all through middle school and high school, and he'd walk in the front door, and I'd say, hey, buddy, where'd you eat lunch today? And he'd say, Daddy, I ate alone. And that used to crush me. I swore that if I ever got a chance to go out and talk in middle schools and high schools, I would tell kids no one should have to eat alone. Now listen, I'm okay with someone eating alone. You want to read, study, meditate, write poetry, listen to music, play a game, do your homework. I have no problem with someone eating alone. I have a huge problem with no one going to offer to sit with them or inviting them to sit with you. And you may go and offer to sit with someone, and I don't know what the status now is with COVID, like how you guys are eating, if you're eating in bubbles or pods or whatever. I was in one school a while ago. I think they've changed it now. But the kids were literally eating at an individual desk with 3 pieces of plexiglass. It was the saddest cafeteria I've ever been in my life. There was 3 pieces of plexiglass. It was the safest cafeteria. I don't know what it was, but it was, for me, it was sad. But I'm okay with someone eating alone. If you offer to sit with someone, maybe they decline, they say, no, I'm good. Maybe somebody across the cafeteria sees you offer and that makes them feel good. You've affected somebody else. When you perform an act of kindness for someone, guys, 3 people benefit. Them, you, and anyone else who witnesses that act. Now, you might invite them to sit with you at your table, and they may come sit with you and not say anything. At least they're part of, one of, included in. That's all Justin's ever wanted. That's all anybody has ever wanted. It's not about the conversation, guys. It's just about the company. Your third challenge from this day forward, Eric, if we could have the next slide, and the next slide, is no one eats alone. And the reason, I was telling this story several years ago, and the reason, I almost fainted on stage. Like I had this flashback, and I probably went dead silent. That people thought, what's wrong with Mr. Flood? But I was in the middle of telling the story, like 6 or 7 years ago, and about Justin eating alone. And now, of course, any parent whose child eats alone is going to feel that, right? And I've met hundreds of parents, thousands of parents who've told me that story, and kids. But what I didn't tell you guys earlier, I told you I've been in recovery. What I didn't tell you earlier is when I was in 8th grade, my mom had to throw my dad out of our house because my dad was an alcoholic. And his addiction destroyed our family, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Destroyed our family. 12 years old, 13 years old, she throws him out of the house. Just me and my mom home alone. My brothers and sisters, Navy, college, married, all gone. But I worked with my dad. because he was a bricklayer, he was a contractor. It wasn't healthy. My mom said it's okay because I know you still want to be around him even though he's sick and has a nasty disease of addiction. And I worked with him every day that I had off from school, every summer, every holiday for 14 years, from the time I was 12 till the time I was 26, and he died of cirrhosis of the liver and cancer. And I'd see him. The Wednesday, I would have a half a day of school, the day before Thanksgiving, every year. It's coming up again. Or the Saturday before Thanksgiving, we'd work together, and I'd say to him every year for 14 years, Dad, where are you having Thanksgiving dinner this year? And he'd say to me the same thing every year for 14 years, David, I'll be at the diner eating alone. And I never had the courage or the selflessness when I was a teenager or in my early 20s to say to my mom, can I have Thanksgiving dinner with Dad this year? And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. So when Justin told me he was eating alone, all of those old feelings came up again. Why does anyone have to eat alone? It's not about the conversation. It's about the company. Eric, can we have the next slide? My talk's not about autism, guys. It's about inclusion. Everyone wants to be part of, one of, included in. One of the most powerful things, and I was bragging about it, I made a video this morning and popped it up on Facebook. You know, when I was here 3 years ago, the person who brought me here, Mrs. Barinka, I actually brag about Austin when I go around the country. I'm like, you know, there's this town in Minnesota, and this is 3 years ago, and I've been talking about it for 3 years. They have people ask, like, Dave, you know, what's it like with autism and like inclusion in organizations? I'm like, well, this town has like 450 kids who volunteer in something called PPP, which is the Peer Power Partners. And there was actually an article in the Washington Post about how powerful that this was, like the model community for involvement. And I don't know if I'm going to get these numbers right. Mrs. Barinka, correct me if I'm wrong. But at one time, there were like 3 volunteers for every kid in this community who had special needs. But the only way to keep it going is to volunteer kids who are younger and younger, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it's so powerful. I said something to you a few minutes ago, guys, that you've probably forgotten already. Maybe not. When you perform an act of kindness for someone, 3 people benefit. Them, you, and anyone else who witnesses that act. When you do something, I guarantee, I felt better giving Isaiah the shirt than he did getting it. And that's because when you do something nice for someone else, it builds you up. And you think, wait, Mr. Floyd, you're telling me to do something nice for someone else because it's good for me? Yeah. And then you'd say, that's selfish. And I'd say, yeah, it's called divine selfishness. Because I know that I'm connected to Isaiah. We're both human beings. If that's the only connection we have, that's fine. When you do something nice for someone else, it builds you up too. Go volunteer for PPP and then send me an email or a text or a message and tell me that you don't feel better about yourself, because no one will. You guys want to see family pictures? Yeah. Come on, you want to see family pictures? Yeah. Eric, go ahead. Here we go. That's me. Next one. I have a small nose. I don't know what she saw in me. Eric, next one. All right, that's really me. Next one. Stop there for 1 second. That's my Filipino boss. I'm sorry, that's my wife. My boss. So great story. She is my boss. So great story. So when Justin got to high school, one of the first, he came, I would say, probably like the second week of high school. He comes home from high school and he throws the front door open, like Kramer coming in on Seinfeld. He throws the front door open and he yells at me, he goes, Daddy, I want to go to the prom. And I'm like, whoa, dude. I'm like, that's great, Justin. I go, let me sit down, let's talk. I said, you're a freshman, Justin. The prom's for seniors. So in 3 years, we'll start to talk about it. We'll figure it out. I gotta know now, Dad. He would talk about the prom once a month, and then when he got to be a junior, and all the signs would go up in the school. So in junior year, like March or April, he's a junior. We've been talking about the prom for 3.5 years. And we're at a dance, not at his school, at like a Knights of Columbus for like 100 of his special needs camp friends. So these are kids who don't go to his high school, but he knows them from camp. And we're at a dance. We're up in a room. I'm having coffee, chatting with some of the adults. Justin is about maybe 4 or 5 feet behind me. And he's talking to a really sweet girl named Larissa. And she went to a different high school now. Larissa at her school, and Justin was a junior. Now they're talking, and anytime Sarah or Justin is talking to anybody, to this day, I'm a little bit of a nosy body. I'm like, kind of listening in on the conversation. When Justin talks to girls, this is me. Because I never know what he's going to say. And they were talking about anime. I swear I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. They're talking this foreign language. I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? And Larissa's so shy and cute, and out of nowhere, in this middle of this anime conversation, she goes, Justin, do you think you might like to, would you go to my prom with me? This was my reaction. What? I'm like holding it in. I got coffee in my mouth, right? And I say to the adults, I'm like, would you guys excuse me for 1 second? My son's being invited to the prom. I'll check back with you. I take a step back. I'm an inch away from Justin. Ladies and gentlemen, in the history of every prom invitation that's ever been offered, in the history of mankind, you have never heard this answer. Let me be very clear, Ellis Middle School. Under no circumstances should any of you use this answer should someone invite you to the prom. I hope no one ever answers this to you when you get invited to the prom. Larissa says, Justin, do you think that, would you go to my prom with me? My boy, who's been talking about the prom for 3.5 years, who I thought I raised so well, he looks at her and he goes, yeah, what the hell? I spit coffee out of my mouth. I drop my cup and I grab him by the back of the neck. I'm like, dude, what did you just say? Gentlemen, Isaiah, if a girl ever invites you to the prom, do not say that. You say, yes, I'd love to go. Oh my God, I can't believe you invited me. What are you wearing? What time should I pick you up? Anything but that. And they went, Eric, if I could have the next slide, they went and had an awesome time, and that's Justin and the prom. Go ahead, Eric. That's Justin the day after the prom. He's like, Dad, we're keeping it in the tuxedo, and I'm going to the anime con at the Queens. There was a casino. We went to an anime con. Go ahead, Eric. Next one. He likes your Joker. That's Sarah on the left with scrub, has the fur. And Justin is holding Primrose. Yes, from the Hunger Games, Prim, the multi-poo. That was the night of the prom. Go ahead, Eric. That's me and some Filipino kid who makes me buy her stuff all the time. Go ahead, Eric. That's some other Filipino kid who lives with me. No, I'm just kidding. That's Sarah. Go ahead, Eric. And that's me and 3 Filipino people who live in my house. No. Some mornings I wake up and I look at my family. I'm like, who are these Filipino people and why are they living in my house? No. I love my Filipino family. They have embraced me. I love the Filipino culture. I will tell you this. Let me be very clear about this. I want to say this in the best and most compassionate and humble way possible. I don't speak for any of these 7 billion people on the planet. For me, just for me, that's it, one person, David Flood. Being in an interracial marriage has taught me more about the world than I could ever learn in a textbook. And whatever you guys think of that, but it gave me a better understanding, especially someone who comes from a pretty third world country, a better understanding of the world. And you look at that picture and you say, wow, Mr. Floyd, your family looks so happy. And are we generally? Yes. But you can't tell from that picture that boy has autism. You can't tell from that picture that girl has had anxiety because of what happened in 7th grade and had to come home from the University of Delaware. She was coming home, COVID, but she was coming home anyway. She was like, I'm done here. I don't want to go to the school. You can't tell from that picture that mom has OCD. My wife is obsessive compulsive. You can't tell that dad is in recovery for 31 years and still yells and every now and then breaks something in his house or, lets out a curse word, right? I don't claim to be perfect, right? So what's your point, Mr. Flood? Don't compare your family with another family. Don't compare what you have and what someone else has. And by all means, don't compare your insides with someone else's outsides. You see people on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are, whatever social media, and you think, wow, they have it all. No, they don't. No one's got it all together. Not the president, not LeBron James, not Bryson DeChambeau, not any celebrity, not whoever you look up to, not the Kardashians, definitely not the Kardashians. You look up to these people and you think, oh my God, they have it all together. Nobody has it all together. Nobody. Go ahead, Eric. Don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. And that's a picture of me and my mom, who was my absolute positive best friend in the entire planet. And this January, I'll celebrate my 8th birthday without her because she died December 10th, 2014. We had 49 birthdays together, and this will be my 8th one without her. Now, a lot of people get upset about the holidays, about a lost relative. The holidays don't bother me. I think of my mom on the holidays, but I was born on my mom's birthday. And so you can imagine that we were pretty close. Youngest of 5, everybody's gone, me and my mom home alone after she threw my dad out, right? And the night before she passed away, she was a school nurse. She was an awesome lady. Didn't take crap from kids. Great, loved kids. And I'm sitting with her the night before she passes away, and my brother's sitting down in the living room. You guys all know the mom look? You know when your mom looks at you and like, oh man, here it comes. She's gonna say it, right? So I'm sitting with her, and I was best friends. My mom was absolutely positive. My best friend, told her everything. And she told me things, everything. So I'm sitting with her, and I'm cracking jokes and, trying to be sarcastic and telling her about all the fun times we went through. And what does she do? She gives me the mom look, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Mom, what do you don't have to tell me. I'm like, shut her down. I'm like, you've told me this like 3,000 times, and another 2,000 times after Justin was diagnosed with autism. And she know what she'd do? She'd point at me, she looked at me, and she said, that's great, David, because I'm going to tell you one more time. Go ahead, Eric. She'd look at me and she'd say, your life is not about you. Your life's not about you. She'd say, stop you selfish man, stop thinking your life is about you. Your life's about Justin. Your life's about Sarah. Your life's about Mary, your wife. Your life's about the kids you get to go out and talk to. And all the people, the teachers you're going to meet, your brothers and sisters. Guys, I say it to 4th and 5th graders, so I'm certainly going to say it to 7th graders. Your life's not about you. If it were, you could take your phone and go live in a cave. You wouldn't need people, but you do. It's about all the people around you that you can teach, touch, impact, and influence, but mostly it's about the people that you love and all the people that love you. That's how you source your life, from being selfless, from being a peer power partner. Watch what it does for you when you volunteer. Yes, the person you're volunteering with will benefit from that, but watch what it does for you. Watch how your value to yourself, your self-esteem goes up. What's your first challenge? Look on me. Second challenge, thank to. Where are you going to look when you say thank you? For how long? And your third challenge from this day forward, what? It's no one? No one? So I'm going to tell you one more story, and then I'm going to let you guys go. I know I went a little long. So in our town, in Northport, on Long Island in New York, where I live, I'm going to guess it's a lot like Austin. In 6th grade is about the time, and it's Halloween now, it's coming up. About 6th grade is the time where kids go out trick-or-treating alone. There's no more elementary school. Hey, are you following them in the car? Whose house are we meeting at? The kids make the plans in middle school, connect at someone's house at 3, 4, 5 o'clock. I hope you guys are treating this year. I don't know if you went last year. Nobody did in our neighborhood. They go out alone. Now, Justin's birthday, October 26th. Justin's favorite thing, anime, getting dressed up. Justin's favorite holiday, Christmas? Nope. Halloween. 6th grade, Justin has no one to go with. He doesn't want us following him, but we don't think he's mature enough, and he wasn't mature enough to go out alone. He was staying home. He wasn't going. He's up in his room. I'm in the living room. I'm getting up and down out of my chair, going back and forth to the front door to give candy out to the kids on the stoop. The fourth or fifth time, I get up out of my chair and I go to the front door and I give candy out to the kids. And out of the corner of my eye, I look down at the end of our driveway. And there's two boys from Justin's school who showed up. Eric, if we can have the next slide. A kid named Kevin Cryer-Hassett and a kid named Cameron Jacobs. They showed up. They didn't call, they didn't text, they didn't tell Justin they were coming, and they didn't come to our house to trick or treat for candy. And Kevin saw me on the stoop, and he said, Mr. Floyd, is Justin home? And if he is, can Cameron and I take him out for a couple hours? And I said, yeah, Kev, give me 10 minutes, bro, I'll get him ready. And they took him. Because they showed up. Guys, sometimes that's all you gotta do, is show up for someone else. And you can show up with a note, a text, a message, a smile, a tap on the elbow. Yes, in person if you can, because I guarantee you, there's going to come more than 1,000 days in your life when you will need someone to show up for you. And if you continuously do that throughout your life for others, when those days come, someone will show up for you. What's your first challenge? Look on the... What's your first challenge? Look on the... Second challenge, thank two. Where are you going to look when you say thank you? For how long? And your third challenge from this day forward is what? No one? No one? Guys, what Kevin and Cameron did encapsulates everything I talked about. What PPP does, what Peer Power Partners does, encapsulates everything that I talked about. Show up. Just show up. Thank you guys. Have an awesome day.